Hey music lovers, welcome back to T-Track Music Reviews, your place for brand new music and the listening experience. As you might be able to see by the stack of CDs behind me, this is not going to be a brand new music review. However, I will say there is a new review in the works. It's going to be classical music, a compilation of Vivaldi concertos, so I thought I should share a little bit more about my personal taste in music and what I have, to let you guys know a little bit about what's influenced me, and how I think about music and how I hear music and how I translate that to you in the new album reviews. So since we're going to be doing a Vivaldi album next, I figured let's start with the classical music first in my collection. We'll go to the instrumental stuff, rap R&B stuff, alternative and punk, then we'll get into the rock, and then finally finish on the heavy side with the metal and death metal. So I'm going to try to break this up into chapters, so feel free to skip to any chapter you want. But we're going to start with the classical music, rather the orchestral classical music. This is the very latest CD that I bought. It came out in 2016. It's called Dynasty because it has pieces written by Johann Sebastian Bach, Johann Christian Bach, Wilhelm Friedman Bach, and also Carl Philipp Emanuel Bach. So you have the dynasty of Bachs performed by the incredible Jean Rondeau on harpsichord. And to be honest, although I've always loved classical music, I could never really get into Bach. But Harpsichord Concerto number 1 is really what got me back into listening to Bach. Number 2 in the orchestral side is what you would call early music. These are pieces written in Europe before the big discovery of America. So from 1492, there's Scottish stuff on here, there's Italian stuff. A lot of it's anonymous, but there are some vocal tracks on here that I just have to mention. Let's see here. Oh, that's not the CD I thought it was. This is Carmina Burana. This is one of my first, I'll call it an experimental classical experience, because this is not what most people would think of as, hey, sit down and listen to this kind of music. But honestly, it's hard to beat the majesty and the complexity and also the straight up wackiness that is on this album. For the Star Wars fans, this is John Williams' ultimate recording of the Star Wars trilogy music. This was recorded on the Lucas soundstage with ultimate control by John Williams. So that's the best of the best. And then in terms of samplers, we have 2 from Telarc, which is a recording company that pioneered the digital recording of classical music with their 18 and 20 and 24-bit recordings. So one of the recordings on here worth noting is by Copland, Rodeo Hoedown, and it's performed by the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra. Hands down the best version of that I've ever heard. Switching gears slightly, this is the instrumental slash solo music slash world music stack here. I just picked this up. This is Christmas music for solo guitar, made by somebody in my hometown. I found that at Goodwill. It's actually really good. Ancient Path Christmas, another recording made by people in my neighborhood in Olmsted Falls, Ohio. Fabian Ziegler is one of the 3 people in Trio Colores, which is a percussion trio, and this is a very methodical, technical, analytical type of album. It's not exactly easy listening or even easy to listen to, but technically speaking, the recording is extremely good. Marimba Quest, very cool, just kind of chill marimba music, but it's not boring, it's not flaky, it's not muzak. It was written by people who were students of music and did travel to Central South America to get sounds. Then they came back to Texas and recorded them. 2 albums by Otmar Liebert, a flamenco Spanish style guitar player, with world influences in there. Very accessible and still good. I have 2 autographed albums that I found at Goodwill. This one I bought just for the cover, but it blew my mind. Rachel Barton Pine is somebody I'd never heard of. She isn't Rachel Barton Pine yet on this album, just Rachel Barton. but the performances are simply staggering. And same with this album, also very good. This is piano. And essentially the album that shaped my views of classical guitar, Jason Vio, still considered easily one of the best living classical guitar players. All right, alt rock and punk rock. We have Matchbox 20. I know practically every word on this album. Tiger Lily by Natalie Merchant. I've never listened to the whole thing, but the song Carnival is one of my favorites. Moby Play. You've probably seen this even if you haven't heard it, and you've probably recognized the song Porcelain. Soul Asylum, Somebody to Shove, Black Gold, Runaway Train, all great songs. I think this is an underrated album. I think in terms of music and musicianship, there's a lot happening on this album that the pop veneer of radio rock really kind of hides. Offspring, before they went all poppy and stuff, this, along with their previous work, is really what I love by the Offspring. I don't listen to much of their new stuff, and I haven't even listened to a lot of their new stuff. And this guy right here, hugely influential on me in terms of the fun of music. This is all seriously fun music, but also with the complexity of good songs. Just picked this one up the other day from Goodwill. I am a big fan of Tori Amos, and I've never even seen this one before. This one has only 5 tracks. 2 are by her, and then there's Angie by the Rolling Stones covered, Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana, and also the song Thank You by Led Zeppelin. Refused. This one has a great track on it. I think it's called New Noise. Classic Green Day album. And the best album by presidents of the United States of America. This has Kitty, this has Lump, it has Peaches, it's got all the hits. Okay, moving on, we have, this is going to start with the other, but we got rap, R&B, and other. One of the others is Trans-Siberian Orchestra, Beethoven's Last Night. So I don't like the Christmas music by them as much as I like this album, because this is a concept album based around the final hours of Beethoven's life as he contemplates death and speaks to death himself. Very emotional for me, that album. And then on the other far side of other, well, I guess I'll get to it. Gorillaz' debut album has classic Clint Eastwood. Gorillaz' G-Sides, which has an extended rap version of Clint Eastwood, which I think is phenomenal. I would play that song for everybody given the chance. It's really great. Track number 6 off G-Sides. Cypress Hill, classic rap in my opinion. Love the whole album. David Gray, massive fan of this album, as well as his other work, like A New Day at Midnight and Sell, Sell, Sell. Dido, Life for Rent, you probably know White Flag off of this one. Jose Gonzalez, very good album start to finish, good folk music. Reba McEntire, I think this is the only country album in my collection, but it has the first track is Climb That Mountain High, and it has a great guitar solos, multi-part guitar solos really make that song worth listening to. Beastie Boys, License to Ill, Fugees' The Score, How Many Mics, love that song. Seal, and then finally Sade, Smooth Operator, probably one of the best songs of all time. Okay, we'll do the jazz and big band next, and then get into the rock, and then get into the metal. So in terms of jazz, this has been the most influential album for me in the past 2 or 3 years in terms of jazz. Mammal Hands, Shadow Work is a straight up masterpiece, start to finish. I could not recommend it highly enough. This is one I just picked up that was for sale for $1 at the library. Handful of Keys, executive producer Wynton Marsalis. It's a live show. Each of the tracks features a different well-known pianist. Kind of a generic jazz grooves compilation. The Essence of George Benson, which is the early work of George Benson before he really broke through. Yellow Jackets, Greenhouse. Goat Rodeo. Put this on the list of albums I would take to a desert island. Absolutely amazing album. Charles Mingus. This is another good one. When I started getting into high fidelity jazz and recordings, this is one I gravitated towards. And on the more modern side, slightly, we have Zoot Suit Riot by Cherry Poppin' Daddies. Every single song. Great. I looked at the liner notes. They don't just have like a steady band. There are dozens, maybe dozens, but over a dozen musicians easily that worked on this album. From the horns to the percussion to the guitars to the drums. We got one singer, but there's an ensemble of impeccable performances by all these different people who appear. All right, moving on to rock. You got Ethan Brosh, Yngwie Malmsteen. So he's one of my guitar heroes. Ethan Brosh I saw open up for Malmsteen, and in my opinion, he was better. So I bought his album. I got his CD. He autographed it for me, which I think is really cool. And this one right here, this one right here, this one right here, big influences. Stevie Ray Vaughan, Guitar God, Guns N' Roses, the pinnacle of hard rock in my opinion. These songs, It's So Easy, Night Train, Out to Get Me, Mr. Brownstone, Paradise City, Welcome to the Jungle. I mean, you read a little bit about the band and this process, and you'll come to know how much time and effort was devoted into making this the absolute best product that they could. And I don't mean to call it a product in a derogatory way, but they gave this album their all, and I think that's why it still stands the test of time. Dinosaur Jr., this is the one album out of all of them that I actually have not listened to yet. Beatles Revolver, classic. Dave Matthews Band, Crush. Eric Clapton, Timepieces. And then we have Wish List, which is a 3-song single EP from Pearl Jam. The Best of Marilyn Manson. We have the legendary Bat Out of Hell. Huge influence. Jimmy's Chicken Shack. And Continuum by John Mayer. So, onto the metal. We have Vastum, kind of edgy death metal. I think they're from California. This album is fairly recent, if not actually brand new. Let's see, I don't know if it has a date on here. No, there's no date that I can easily see. But anyways, this is really good. The track Reveries and Autophagia. That's the one that I would recommend checking out if you want to check out some new death metal. Pantera, Cowboys from Hell, easily one of the top 3 metal albums of all time. Absolutely crushing. The guitars, the drums, the bass, the vocals, the production, the talent, the raw talent that is on this album. Staggering. Rotted, this is a solo endeavor, and I just recently picked this up. Not my typical cup of tea at first, but it grows on you because it has groove. It gets you in there, you're in the grave, you're digging, you're getting your boots dirty, and you're loving every second of it because it sounds so good. Sounding not so good, this one was a risk I took, and I bought this one new. Carcass, Reek of Putrefaction. I do like Carcass, I like the Heartwork album, I like the Surgical Surplus, but the early stuff is a little too grating on my ears. And then to finish off with 2 classic influences on me, White Zombie, Astro Creep 2000, and an album that I'd put toe-to-toe with any other album in the world. This right here has the fire, the intensity, the power, the lyrical intent, and the creativity that I dare say you just really don't find often. I was going to say anymore, maybe you still find it, but rarely does something like this come along and just rip your face off like this album did for me. So in a nutshell, I hope this provides a little bit of background as to where I come from musically when I'm listening and when I'm presenting. If you like any of the albums that I showed, let me know. If you're surprised by any of them, let me know. And if you want to know more about any of them or what I like, just let me know in the comments below. So next album coming up is going to be Vivaldi. Stay tuned for that. Until next time, happy 2023.